This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Okay, we've got a relatively late addition to the game, Keelytone Workstation. I've just plugged this in to the main rig and I've decided it adds too much to not do it. So that will be what's on the floor. Pretty simple. And then that's what's there. I'll just try and get what it sounds like a bit. So just clean. I've got a compressor here which I can kick on. Sort of using that like a clean boost, I guess. Tube screamer if I need it. So that's just giving me a bunch of flavours that I could add to the clean, but most of the time I'm guessing I'll be doing that sort of thing. Then for the rock kind of rhythm, want it. Jump over here and add a bit more gain from the tone workstation if I want, or compressor. Basically it. Since having the baby, I've not had a gig, and leading up to having the baby, we have not had gigs either, which has been quite convenient, frankly, because obviously it's not the best time to leave Lenny to it with a baby and 8 dogs. So tomorrow, actually, when you actually see this video, I'll be on my way, I think, to my first gig in quite a while. I had one on New Year's Eve, so should be my first gig in over 4 months, which is a long time for me not to have gigged. Anyway, looking forward to it. I wanted to just do a video talking about what I'm going to be using, I think, because I think sometimes people are vaguely interested in that as much as anything else. So I think I'm going to take the RevStar Standard. I gigged the RevStar Professional quite a few times in the last sort of year. What I think I'm going to do is gig this one and take the Professional as backup, just see how that works out. And try and report back on that and see, yeah, how it holds up in a gigging situation. I think that's important. You know, does it stay in tune? Does it sound decent? Do the pickups kind of work live? All that sort of stuff. I really like the RevStar format for the live gig, particularly 22 frets, stainless steel thing, all that good stuff. So the RevStar's coming along. I do like to mix it up guitar-wise on gigs. The sort of stuff that I'm playing, by the way, is kind of your standard kind of wedding function gig where you've got all sorts of fun things from Queen, Bon Jovi, you know, Bruno Mars, that sort of stuff, some Superstition, these sorts of things. The way that we generally tend to play them is try and get close-ish to the record, but then kind of let our hair down occasionally, so, you know, you like sticking a solo here or there. But, you know, if it's an actual classic like Don't Stop Believing or these sorts of things, try and play it vaguely close to the record so that it sounds as it roughly should. Now, what really has become a kind of cornerstone of my live gigging life has been the Henriksen Bud. I think this is the 6 version. So what this is essentially, it was originally designed for jazzers. I think Jim Hall was involved with the first prototype. But basically I've been using this for a number of reasons. So first of all, it works really well for acoustic gigs. It's got 2 inputs. So you get your channel 1, which is what I use for the guitar, and then channel 2, if I was gigging with my wife, then she could go in there, and it's enough to sort of do a small venue like a church or something like that. And then if you need to, what's really good about this is it's kind of modular. You have speaker outs and line outs, so you can just use this as your preamp in that case, or as your fallback speaker, and then plug it into a bigger speaker. I have quite big speakers downstairs, Yamaha DXR 15s, which I actually use for the main front of house. Next then, for the actual kind of guitar gig, what's cool about this is it's basically loud enough for a small venue by itself, but you do end up pushing it a little bit, and occasionally it got a little bit like there was a smell like this amp was working quite hard. So this is essentially what I use more or less like an FRFR. It's got a tweeter on or off on the back, which I turn off, and then I leave the EQ roughly flat, maybe take down
some of the presence, so 7.2K, and maybe sometimes take down some of the high if it's feeling quite spiky, but generally not too much. And then for a bigger venue, that it's heavy from this position, but it's not actually that heavy. It's a 80s Mesa Boogie cab, but crucially with an EVM, is it EVM 12 speaker in there, which is a 200 watt speaker, really kind of clean hi-fi, super efficient speaker, so kind of works really well for the FR type thing, and is as loud as you'd need. I think it's much easier to carry if you're not on your knees. Yeah, so that is something that I can take along, and it's never been too quiet for anything. You can really, with those two in combination, keep up with anything. It can be insanely loud if you want it to. So that is kind of the cornerstone of stage volume, really, for me. I've talked about this before, but I do feel like in a situation where you've got a keyboard and bass and vocals and drums, I think without any stage volume coming from the guitar at all, in some of the wedding style venues that I'm playing, it's very easy to get not heard in the mix at all. So I like to let this do some of the heavy lifting so that I don't have to worry too much about the guitar coming out of front of house, because, you know, vocals are more important. Keyboards are just as important and take up a lot of sonic space. So I think it's useful to have this here and a bass amp to kind of take some of the load off of the front of house. Especially, you know, it's like 100 to 200 people venues most of the time. So yeah, I think if it's all going out of front of house, it's easy for the guitar to get lost, particularly if you're shy like I am with my sound. I don't like to be too loud, but having it coming from, you know, its own source as well as out of front of house, I think does help to make sure that the guitar can be heard when it needs to be. If you watch the channel, you'll know that I use a variety of modelers live. I try to kind of have an idea of how each of these would perform in a live situation. I think it helps to kind of make videos about this sort of stuff and have some idea about how it works and before giving an opinion. I'm going to be taking the HX Stomp XL, I think, for tomorrow. I want to try and gig the fractal stuff a bit more this year as well. But the kind of beauty of this setup is that I can mix it up and, you know, use whatever model into it. I just leave the cabs on because this is like a clean enough, kind of close-ish to FR that I don't really need to worry about IRs, and that means that I don't have to worry too much about tweaking too much either. The Hendrickson Bud does quite a really good job actually of just translating the presets, and it doesn't sound like boxy like some of the FR stuff that I've had trouble with in the past. So HX Stomp XL is what I'll be using. It's what I was using in the intro. Basically I have rhythm, lead, clean, and then I have another kind of clean with a dotted delay, and I can foot switch on a bit of extra gain, that sort of stuff. Really quite simple. I like to keep it simple. I'm going to also try this year and gig a real amp a few times, and I've done like a 4 cable kind of setup for that. I'm not going to do that tomorrow because it's a 94 decibel limit on the venue, which is something that we have to kind of compete with in the UK as well. So I'm possibly not even going to need the bigger speaker, though I'll take it and just keep it kind of down. This goes out to front of house as well as to here via the headphone output. So I'll, yeah, see how it goes. Hopefully it's going to be a fun gig. Get to play some solos, get to see my mates, and see how it goes. Let me know about your kind of live gigging rig. Do you have a favourite setup that you like to use? This has worked for me for about a year now, so I'm going to try and get back into the first gig, keeping things pretty much the same, and then see where we go from there. I want to try to do some different things this year just to keep it fresh and interesting. Gigging a real amp in full cable method is something I want to try and get back to if I can for a bit. I'll catch you in another video soon, and cheers. Hope you're enjoying them.